how attachment styles can save your relationship. Have you heard of attachment styles before? If not, in this video, I'm going to talk about what they are, why they're important, and how they can really help save your relationship. But before I do that, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Doing those things greatly helps the channel and helps me get this valuable information out to those who need it. Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Anthony. I'm a certified sexologist, Tantra Counselor, NLP Practitioner, and sex, love, and relationship coach. And for over 10 years, I have been helping men, women, and couples have the relationship of their dreams and the best sex of their lives. So let's get into it. So last month I did a video, it was kind of a book review video, where I was talking about a book written by a divorce attorney, and it was what people should know before they get married. And it was kind of something new that I was trying. I didn't know how people would like it, but I got some great feedback on that video and people were asking for more book reviews. So I read a lot of books on sex, love, and relationship. So it's pretty easy for me after I've finished one to do one of these videos and let you know about the book because maybe it would be helpful to you. So recently on the Love Lab podcast, I had a woman on named Julie Manano, and she is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and she wrote this book here, which is called Secure Love, Create a Relationship That Lasts a Lifetime. So if you're interested in listening to her talk about it on the Love Lab podcast, go look that up. I believe that episode was actually called How to Create a Relationship That Lasts a Lifetime. But I'm going to talk a little bit about it here. So this book is really about attachment theory. So attachment theory is a branch of psychology that talks about how when we're young, our interactions with our primary caregivers lead us to create certain styles of coping with that, right? So, for instance, attachment styles are characterized by different ways of interacting and behaving in relationships. During early childhood, these attachment styles center on how children and parents interact. In adulthood, attachment styles describe attachment patterns in romantic relationships. So it really has to do with, our primary caregivers showed up this way or didn't show up this way. And in response to that, we learned to react back in a certain way. What's interesting is that as we get older, we continue on those patterns, even though our partners may not be acting in the same way our parents did. And so, I've been familiar with attachment styles for a long time. I read this book before I had an opportunity to even speak with Julie. And I really, really liked the book. I thought it was one of the better attachment style books out there. Her ability to really clearly explain what the attachment styles are, and because she is a working licensed marriage and family therapist, she's got years of experience, and in the book there are many, many examples from actual clients of how the behavior showed up, what they did to correct it. And I just found it really fascinating. I think this is a really valuable resource. Now remember that any sort of framework that we create is a view, it's a way of looking at relationship dynamics. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the end all be all of relationship dynamics, but it's a way of looking at them that can help us understand our patterns and potentially shift them. And that's really what this book does. So just quickly to talk about, the 4 types of attachments. You have secure attachment, which is defined by the ability to build healthy, long-lasting relationships. So that's ultimately where we all want to be. We all want to be in secure attachment. We have avoidant attachment, which is defined by failures to build long-term relationships with others due to an inability to engage in physical and emotional intimacy. So in avoidant attachment, this is like, okay, when you're having an argument and somebody just shuts down, or they have to leave physically and go away, right? They're avoiding dealing with the things that need to be dealt with in the relationship. So that's sort of a characteristic of avoidant attachment. Anxious attachment, also known as anxious ambivalent or anxious preoccupied, is another type of insecure attachment characterized by fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, depending on a partner for validation and emotional regulation, and codependent tendencies. So these are the people that in relationship that when they feel challenged, they start asking more questions and they start digging more and they start clinging to you more. They're doing that out of fear generally. So that's what we would call anxious attachment. You will often find, and she talks about it in this book and in the interview, that you'll often find a avoidant person paired up with an anxious person because those two feed off each other. And she explains in the book why exactly that is. There is a fourth type called disorganized attachment, which is defined as having extremely inconsistent behavior and difficulty trusting others. That is a very small percentage. She talks about it in here. Most people will not fall into that category, but some do. But because it's kind of far less common, we won't really spend much time talking about that. So another thing that Julie really talks about, and I think does a great job in this book discussing, is what's called negative cycles. So these are those negative cycles that you get into in your relationship. These sort of negative patterns that you get into of whether it's bickering or, criticizing or, withholding sex from each other, whatever it is. There are these cycles, these patterns that get repeated, that when somebody in our significant other does something, we react in a certain way the same time, right? They're the same way every time. It's what's called a negative cycle. And she describes the negative cycles really well. And she also gives you really good tips for how to avoid the negative cycles. This is probably one of the most valuable pieces of the book, is her describing how to avoid those negative cycles. It is, of course, very helpful to know what your attachment style is, what your partner's attachment style is, because that can tell you how, if I'm a shutdown person, then I know, right? I'm an avoidant, so I tend to shut down. Then I would know that I need to be more open. I need to do a better job at communicating, right? I need to stay more involved in the discussion or the situation. So that can be helpful. And figuring out how to avoid these negative cycles, and also if you're already in a negative cycle, how do you get out of that negative cycle, is really, really important. Obviously, it's a pretty good sized book. There's a lot of content in there. I can't possibly cover everything that's in here in a short video such as this, but I did want to do a video on the book because I do recommend it. It is now on my reading list, which you can find at kevinandceline.com/vault. And it's definitely worth a read. I would say even if your relationship is pretty good, that it's worth a read because it can really help you understand the dynamics that are at play in your relationship. And if you can understand those things, you can show up differently, you can avoid negative cycles, and you can greatly improve the quality of your relationship. So there you go. If you liked this video, then please check out some of my other videos. I now have over 700 videos on the channel. So go check some of those out. And also please listen to the Love Lab podcast. You can watch it right here on the channel. You can also listen to it on any major podcast platform. Lastly, if you go to kevinandceline.com/vault, you can sign up for a free library full of resources to help improve your sex, love, and relationship. All right, I hope that you liked this video, and I will see you in the next one.